Happy Friday, America. We're bringing the noise in on this beautiful Friday morning. Look, a lot of people say Friday is the best day of the week. It's definitely one of my favorites, but I truly enjoy every day of the week. And I'm just happy to be here, be a part of this show, having so much fun here. It's the first episode of October, which is a fun month. I'm doing Sober October, free from booze this month, so I'm excited for that. A lot of great things are happening. We have somewhat of a risque show this week for you, which I'm looking forward to getting into with my awesome co-host, Kevin, bringing the beef, Batstone.
Happy Friday, America. Happy October. Happy Sober October for the folks doing that. I'll be joining you on the alcohol side. I'm doing sober for as long as we can go. But hey, it's one day at a time, and we're in October. Still thinking of everyone, of course, that was affected by Hurricane Helene. Absolute catastrophe down there in the Asheville, North Carolina area. My cousin Erica Badstone affected by that, of course. Terrible stuff, so we're hoping for a quick turnaround in that part of the country, and maybe we can provide you a little fun here on Happy Friday.
Yes, and so to get it started, we are going to kick it off, as always, with Today in History. 1957, the sitcom Leave It to Beaver debuts on CBS. Is that the
I don't think that's...
Is that Leave It to Beaver?
No, I think that's Green Acres.
Is it?
Or maybe...
What's the Leave It to Beaver? It was like a whistle, wasn't it?
Is that Leave It to Beaver? I don't know. Someone's probably yelling at us through the TV. But I didn't realize it was 1957. I know then there were some remakes of Leave It to Beaver as well, I believe. I didn't watch a whole lot of it. I remember my old roommate Evan, who you remember, they used to say he looked like Eddie Haskell from that program.
Okay.
He hated that.
Oh, he didn't
So
like
if he's
that
watching,
reference?
sorry, Evan, but that's just the way it goes. 1957, wow.
So 1957, also what happened is Soviet Union launches Sputnik 1, the first artificial Earth satellite into the elliptical low Earth orbit. So that's kind of a big deal. You know, obviously the Cold War, all that was happening at that time. Moving forward a little bit, we're staying aviation focused right here. 1975, and look, we were watching the World Wrestling documentary recently as well, so this one kind of stood out to me. But a Cessna, so in 1975, a Cessna 310Q airplane crashes over Wilmington, North Carolina. This kills the pilot and severely injures several pro wrestlers affiliated with the NWA Mid-Atlantic promotion. One of the survivors is the legendary Ric Flair.
I actually heard Rick talking about this on Theo Vaughn's podcast recently. He recalled that event. Pretty crazy, man.
That is.
Wrestling was a lot different back then. Those guys were just trying to make it from A to B, and it wasn't always pretty, as you can see there.
It wasn't always pretty, and I honestly want to let you take the honor of this last Today in History.
I was pretty excited when I saw New England Patriots Tom Brady in there because, I mean, that was really it for us. That was a fantastic season. And, you know, Tom, of course, on this day in history, 2018, became the third quarterback to record over 500 career touchdowns when he connected with Josh Gordon. We ended up beating the Colts in that game, 38-24 in Foxborough. Man, the good old days, because the Patriots are horrendous to watch right now.
Hey, man, well, that's why I stopped watching football with the Broncos after the Elway era and stuff. It was tough. And then we had Manning for a little bit. That was fun, but we all knew that was a flash in the pan.
I'm still going to be there every Sunday.
Yeah.
Rooting my team on.
Yeah, and that is Today in History. Next, we have somewhat of a disturbing story.
Yeah, this one's a little rough. We usually try to keep it happy here on Happy Friday, of course, but this one seemed HFA worthy because it's it's just one of those things you don't hear every day.
Yeah,
you just don't.
I'm curious to see your presentation on this, like how you present this.
Well, so we've all heard about the mushroom usage, of course, the psychedelics and things of that nature, and ironically, there is a strand called penis envy of mushrooms. Now, I don't know if this was the mushroom that was consumed in this incident, but a 37-year-old man decided to get a little wild on his boomers, and he ended up amputating his own penis. And he did. It wasn't just a clean sever art. He hatcheted this thing up a few times with an axe. I mean, you think about an axe, it's got a big old long handle on it. I mean, I almost feel like a hatchet would be easier. Kind of reminds me of the BME Pain Olympics a bit. I don't know if you remember that kind of came out 10, 20 years ago. Horrible
that's
stuff.
Brutal. I never even watched it, but I knew it existed. I refused to watch it.
It's horrible. I don't recommend it to anybody. But this guy decided to chop his thing off, man, and sliced it and diced it up enough. He was on the magic mushrooms, mangled his penis. Now,
he got it all the way off?
He completely severed it.
Oh, wow.
Penis was removed. Too much time passed, I think. He waited about 5 hours before getting medical attention, which caused for severe bleeding. It's a major artery going to your penis. There's a lot of blood flow in that area.
Yeah.
He severed it, cut the, and it was just leaking blood. So when he arrived, he had to go into critical condition because of the blood loss.
Okay.
They were able to reattach part of the organ, but he lost vital parts because the penis needs blood flow to operate properly. And the head, some of the areas around the urethra were impacted. So it's will he ever get an erection again? I don't know. Medical experts would probably be, have more information on this. It's a long read, so if you want to go down there, you can read this article. That's basically the brunt of it. Guy took some mushrooms. I mean, I've done mushrooms before. I've never really gone full send. I've seen things. I've seen some trails. I've never once considered self-harm while on psychedelic mushrooms.
Me either. It almost makes me think that you can't blame this one fully on the drug without knowing the mentality that this person had. Right. Like their ability, how stable, their mental stability. And that's what I was trying to say.
Good point to bring up because it does say here in the top of the article that he was suffering from depression and heavy alcohol abuse. So you mix all that in with it. You're right. It's not just the mushrooms. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay, so can we make light of this? What did his penis do to him to deserve that? Like what kind of history did he have with his penis to when he was in this elevated state that he wanted to chop it off? Like he had a dick vendetta.
Maybe that's a good point. Maybe he was mad about something. Maybe he wasn't doing sex. Maybe he was not happy with the sex he was doing. Maybe he had erectile dysfunction. Maybe he couldn't get it up and he was so angry about it that he got fucked up on alcohol and he's like, you know what? Fuck this dick.
Dude.
And he just took it out on and immediately regretted it. But he waited 5 hours. I feel like if he got to the medical attention immediately, this penis could have been saved.
Oh, man, that is so brutal. That is a sad, happy Friday America story. Yeah. And I hope that this lad gets mentally stable and in the future can masturbate. And so moving on to masturbation is our next article here. And this sparked my interest based on a conversation that we were having in the Discussion Combustion studio yesterday. And so I am going to highlight a couple of things that you talked about yesterday, but that is not part of this article. So I looked up this article, and it was done by Cleveland Clinic Health. So it's out there in Ohio. And we talk a little bit about masturbation and is it good for you? And they overall say that it is, and mainly on the physical level, reducing stress, relieving tension, improve sleep, increase your focus because you're not distracted by the horny, boost your mood, alternative aches and pains. It helps enhance your sex life. So there's all these different things. They mainly say the main health benefit for men, which they've kind of seen here, is that it could lower the risk of prostate cancer because ejaculating helps prevent the buildup of the cancer-causing agents near your prostate gland. So that's
Makes
like
sense.
a type of benefit for men, and I don't know how, if that's 100%, depends on the person, I'm sure. But for females, it was a little bit more interesting, some of the benefits of masturbating. It could help females get more orgasms when they are actually having intercourse. It can increase self-esteem and showed a higher self-esteem. It could increase sexual desire and the libido. So maybe it's like one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it sort of thing. And so with women, it seems to be one thing that could actually increase your libido. And then greater satisfaction with their marriage and sex lives because you're a little bit more fun, you're more relaxed. So there's all the things, the quick benefits. There are some myths about masturbating. And these are not true, according to this article, but vision loss, hairy palms. So these are all myths about masturbating. Mental illness, which I put a side note because I think you can get a mental illness from overdoing porn and stuff like that. We'll touch that in just a second. Shrinkage or curvature of the penis, so you could deform your penis.
Yeah, the PD, Crohn's disease.
Apparently that's a myth. Decrease your sperm count. Well, temporarily, I'm sure that it is. But it might give you erectile dysfunction. That's a myth. And then lowered libido myth. And then infertility myth. So that's just a quick glance at some of the benefits of masturbation. And then to move this conversation forward, you can get guilt. Like there's like a religious guilt that you can get from doing this. You could cross the line and easily go into a compulsive sexual behavior. You can cause minor physical damage by like overdoing it, no lube. You could like hurt yourself. And then also it makes sex not as good because if you're masturbating all the time, it can decrease your sexual sensitivity.
Right.
So that's a quick breakdown on masturbation. Overall, I think it's important, but it's one of those things where it's you walk this fine line of the dark arts and doing it too much. You're like, where is the medium?
I'm going to compare it to alcohol use a little bit because we've heard studies over the years that a glass of wine can be good for cardiovascular health.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've heard that a beer, there's components within the hops and the barley that have been shown to combat cholesterol. So there's arguments that can be made that a drink of beer, a glass of wine a day can be good for your health. Same with the masturbation thing, right? It can reduce, prostate cancer risks. It can help with women achieve, a more desirable libido and sexual satisfaction. There's a lot of positive come out of it, but it's that fine line, right? Mm-hmm. Of, okay, the glass of wine is now a bottle of wine, mm-hmm. the beer is now a case of beer, and then it starts to go off the rails. So I think we can apply the masturbation to the same with anything in moderation mm-hmm. is healthy, right? But when it becomes, the problem is that addiction, right? So coming from an addict, one beer is good, 50 is better. Masturbation, 1 orgasm is good, 10 must be better. And then what happens is then you start to go down the dark arts of having to increase the sexual experiences, whether that's whips and chains, mm-hmm. Ball gags. It starts to go, it's a slippery slope. And I'm not saying that's bad.
But is that a bad thing, like BDSM? I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but I have
it can be.
I have went down that slippery slope where I was watching too much internet porn and overdoing it with myself, and I was having a more difficult time performing with real people
right.
because of this. And so like that was a journey that I went on. Happy Friday is a safe place here, guys.
Of course.
So we can talk about this type of stuff and be mature about it because it's part of being a human.
Right.
Like it's a function that our bodies do. So it is important, but there's that fine line.
There is. And I think the difference, you highlighted porn here, which is a good one to discuss because when we were young, we didn't have a whole lot of pornography. We were still men, right? We had our desires, urges, whatever. And whether it was a JCPenney catalog or it was the Girls Gone Wild commercial that would come off and that was blurred, that's all we had to work with. Mm-hmm. Now there's an abundance amount of porn, which is causing the dark arts, the mental health aspect of it. It's desensitizing sexuality, right? Because men are in a temporary relationship with a female or whatever you're attracted to. You're in that temporary relationship with this person that's arousing you sexually. Mm-hmm. You're getting pleasure out of it, and that's it. You're cutting it off. So, again, not saying that's the worst thing in the world, but it can start to be a slippery slope mm-hmm. and can impact personal relationships, and then the guilt, right? Then the self-doubt, and then all these things start to set in. Then you're getting hooked on Viagra. It can be just a slippery slope.
It is. So jerk wisely, play with yourself wisely, have fun, be responsible, and don't chop off your parts.
Be good to your parts. Don't chop them off. I would agree with that.
Goodness
you
gracious.
Don't want any of that self-harm.
No. So moving on. We're moving on to Kevin's random record for the week, and it's not Mr. Rush, thank God.
We love Mr. Rush, but
what do you got, Kev?
All right, so this week we have, speaking of another body part, we have the largest tongue in the world, and it comes from an Italian woman. So we took a look at it briefly before jumping on. The way that they measured it is they took her tongue and basically tied a piece of string around it.
Boy's dick.
To get it, to measure that circumference. And so this thing ended up measuring 5.21 inches, was the previous record holder, and this was now destroyed by 6.69 inches in circumference. That's insanity. That's a big tongue. Mm-hmm. And so she is now what's her name? Ambra Colina. She's 37, mm-hmm. Italian woman. Now has the largest mouth muscle in the world.
Yeah, no, that's wild. And so it's like you said, mouth muscle. It's a muscle.
It
so like she was like flexing it in the video. Resting, it wasn't so thick, but like once she like flexed it, and like I don't even know how they did that. Yeah, I don't know how they did that. I shouldn't be doing that though.
No, probably not.
But either way, it was a big thick tongue and it was massive. It looked like she could choke on it. Like, is that thing a breathing hazard?
It could be. I've heard people you can swallow your own tongue. People do that when they're fucked up, apparently. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they do that, but the fact remains, what do you do with that sumbitch? I mean, it's got to make eating more difficult. Eating, sucking on a popsicle, mm-hmm. or maybe it gives you an advantage.
I mean, it takes way less licks to the center of a Tootsie Pop with that thick.
You think it does, just because it's a megatongue?
No.
I never counted.
No, it was like 700 something.
Did you count?
Yeah, we did. We all did it one day.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was Quincy Ridge Day as we did it.
How many licks it took to get to
Yeah,
that? That does sound
it
familiar.
was like close to like 1,000 or something.
Yeah, 1,000 sounds about right to me.
It was a lot. I don't know if there was any
But-
cheating happening there. It's a game of patience.
It is, and you got to count accurately.
Yeah, that's not an easy.
Because like a lick, are you just touching it, or are you like
no,
going in
you
with a
got to
full-
go full lick, and then are you like licking all the sides? So I think we just focused licking just on
One
one
spot.
side. Yeah, so then we're like, because you just have to get to the center. Like you don't have to get rid of everything.
You're right. How many licks to the center of a
Yeah.
Tootsie Pop? Well, I guarantee you that Amber Kalina here with her mega tongue could beat the record of Tootsie Pop licking.
Yeah, it's gonna take her 2/3 of the licks.
You think?
I don't know. I have no idea. But massive tongue. Moving on to the Would You Rather for this week. But first, we must recap last week's Would You Rather. Kev, what you got on those numbers?
So last week we asked America, which of course both you and I haven't done either of them. Okay.
Still,
Would you rather only get petties for the rest of your life or only get manicures for the rest of your life? You and I think. Well, no, you went.
you went manis.
I went mani.
went
You went petties.
Yeah, I went petties.
Because of my ticklish feet,
Uh-huh.
the man hands we saw. I had to pick something.
We saw the man.
We saw the man hands. They were.
Whoa.
They're out there, and I would go manis, but America disagreed. 75% of America, which we kind of knew was going to go this way, are going pedicures. I asked a couple of females in passing; they all went petties as well. And as a guy that appreciates women's feet, I like that answer. I'd rather see the pretty toes. We talked about this before we went on. I'm not a big fan of the fancy nails, the fake nails, all that stuff. Give me the painted toes. I'm good with that. So America's 75%.
Wow, that's what I thought. I thought it was going to go that way. Thank you, America. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and participating in the weekly Would You Rather. This week's Would You Rather is in aesthetics, like a household type of question. We were talking about animals in your house a couple weeks ago. Now we're talking about plants in your house. So would you rather have a bunch of fake plants? You can only have fake plants. There's some benefits to that. Or would you rather only have real plants in the household? What you going with, Kev?
Well, as the viewers can see, looking over Art's shoulder, we have a fake plant right there. And where I usually sit for discussion combustion, we have some fake vines over there.
I knew we needed that camera.
It worked out well. So in these situations, because it says in my house, not in my studio.
Yeah.
I don't want real plants here in the studio.
No,
'cause
we
don't
can't.
have
There's no
light.
sunlight. There's no sunlight.
It's all artificial lighting above us.
Yeah.
So we'd have to have, but in my house, I have a philodendron and a cactus, real. And I was just watering last night. I was talking to them. They're doing well.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the real plants. I like the feel of it. I like the dirt. I like to watch them grow. So for those reasons, I'm going to take the real plants.
Real plants. That's unanimous on this. I do have 1 or 2 fake plants in my house, but majority real plants. And it's actually been growing. For my dad's birthday, my girl and I, we both bought him a nice plant.
Did he like that?
He kind of fucked it up.
How did he fuck it up?
He put these things out on his patio, completely sun-baked them, and then overwatered them.
Oh, so they dried out and then hydrated it?
And then he was leaving for the summer, so he let me take care of them, and I've nursed them back to health. He hasn't asked for them back. I've adopted the plants that I gifted to my dad. So I'm going real plants all day. One of my biggest frustrations, though, are the gnats. When the gnats appear, I think you're overwatering your plants at that point. That's a whole conversation I get into, but
It's true, though.
Is it the overwatering, and then the gnats come?
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, so you got to keep them kind of dried out.
Yeah, the rule of thumb I always learned is, put your thumb in, and if it's a little bit moist still, it's probably okay. But it depends on the plant.
Yeah.
Some plants require a lot more water, like those jungle plants, that are in the rainforest. They almost require those, I don't know the fucking.
It's like a flute thing that you put upside down.
Yeah.
You fill it up and it slowly.
And it just stays moist. You don't want those suckers drying out. So the rainforest plants, they need a lot of moisture. But if you can find a philodendron or one of those house plants, you only water once a week.
Yeah.
You can't really kill those unless you have it in a basement with no light.
Yeah. And you just, it's so fun and it's satisfying. One of my plants, it's an umbrella plant. It grew a 7-leafer. I only have 1 7-leafer stem on there.
That's pretty mega.
And it's awesome.
That's pretty
and it's
cool.
been so much fun. So I'm 100% only going to have real plants. That means I have to throw away that big fake one. They're expensive though too.
They're not cheap.
You know, you go buy like the big fake one that I have. If I go buy a real one of those, that's at least going to be like 60 to 100.
Well, I mean, that fake fern over your shoulder, I think we spent like 30 or 40 bucks on.
That's true.
But it looks cool. We never have to water it.
That's true. That's
so,
true.
you know, fake plants have their place, but at home, give me the life, baby.
Yeah.
I want it alive.
Yes. Where do you choose in America? Are you nurturing life, or are you checking the easy box for the aesthetics and no work? What are you going to do? Both have benefits. Moving on to the next one. This is a question that has really bounced around my mind a lot. I've done research on this in the past. People dating wonder about these things. What do you got coming up next?
So we're going to talk about flatulence a little bit. Everybody does it. Everyone has to fart. Everyone's passing gas. Your dog does it. Your cat does it. And they don't think twice about it.
Your plant does it.
Your plant probably. I don't know if your plant farts, but the average human releases about 0.5 to 1.5 liters, which would equate to 0.1 to 0.4, just under half a gallon of gas a day. It's tough to measure gas in a liquid form, but if your mind can grab that, under half a gallon of gas a day, we're always farting in the studio, you know, at least I am. Much worse when I drank a lot of beer, I farted much worse. But here's the thing. Just like holding in your poop, holding in your fart is no good. It can cause inflammation of the colon, your lower intestines. It's not good to hold this stuff in. Your body's not meant to hold it in, right? When you got to go, it's trying to get rid of it. It's waste for a reason. But we are in scenarios, whether it's maybe you're on a first date, maybe you're at, a Thanksgiving dinner. You don't want to rip a gnarly fart at Thanksgiving dinner.
It's not appropriate all the time.
If I know there,
unless you're a master of doing it silently,
which silent sniper, that's legendary status. But you have to know your fart so well that you know it's not going to stink.
To be a silent sniper, you have to confidently try it in public enough to learn how to silence it.
It's
a risky play though.
It takes a lot of experience.
Yes.
And I'd say I've gotten pretty good at it. But I also have to know, like when I was a beer drinker, no, they were going to reek. They just weren't good. Okay, beer farts are rough.
It's going to be too obvious.
It's too obvious. So if you know that you can get away with passing it and it won't reek that bad, then you can let it go in some areas, or you just excuse yourself. You go to the restroom, you go out, you step outside.
See, it goes back. It works itself back
but
up.
That's not good.
If I get up and leave, like I have to. Once it's there, like I can't. I have to let it go, or else if I get up and move, like it retreats.
It does. And Hundo was on our program and talked about how the mouth to the anus is connected through the entire body. So the second we start taking a bite of food, your body is already, and this happens to me, I'll start eating something and then I immediately have to, fart or whatever, because your mouth chomps it down mechanically, and then the chemicals start to break it down in your saliva, and your body is immediately trying to understand what it's going to do with it, how it's going to break it down, and then you're going to shit it out, fart it out, whatever. So the only thing that holds a fart in between eating it and exiting is our sphincter, that muscle that's able to clench it and hold things in. That's it.
It's an important muscle.
The body, that's it. That's the only muscle.
It's super important.
And that muscle can start to fade over time for older folks, and that's why they have to wear incontinence things like Depends, because, things will leak out.
I pray that everybody tuning in and in this room with me right now, I hope we all have strong sphincters till death.
Do your bum busters once a day, folks.
Is that where I
learned this a long time ago.
What's a bum buster?
It's this. So for men, you're using the PC. I think it's the PC muscle, which is also related to the prostate. Women don't have that, but they can do Kegels.
I think
it's
I'm doing
the same
it right
exercise. When you squeeze really tight and you let loose, you do it about 10 times a day. You can build your sphincter. Don't hold the farts in. It's no good for you, folks.
I think I'm doing a bum buster right now.
And nobody knows about it.
Is it called a bum buster?
I don't think that's the proper term for it, but that's what I call it.
I mean, this is important stuff, and I don't like farts are in this weird dimension with humanity, because like they're gross, but they're also like funny. But everyone does it.
Nobody cares when the dog farts.
Yeah, it's funny.
People laugh. They're like, oh, the dog farted.
And then it's like, blame
it on the dog.
Yeah.
Dog's like, what?
So you got to do it. There's like I've talked on previous things, you should just own it. If you have to do it, just do it. It's only embarrassing as you make it.
It's exactly.
Right?
And for women, I've certainly been doing sex and a woman passed gas during that period because she'd been holding it in the whole time.
Yeah.
So now you get in this position. If you just let it out before, it would have been less awkward during the sexual encounter.
Yeah, I know. But when it comes to the bedroom, like almost anything goes.
You're going to have some smells. You're going to have gas.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Come through. It's just the way it goes.
There's nothing wrong with
the moral of the story is let the gas out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And just own it.
If you listen to yesterday's episode of Discussion Combustion, you'd know to go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Flow that gas out. Don't hold in your flatulence, folks. It can cause issues down the road.
That's a good one. And definitely what we're eating and our diet contributes to how our flatulence is.
Certainly.
And people are getting really huffy and puffy over a change of the recipe of a cake at Whole Foods. Now, funny enough, I was going to add this last week, but I didn't. And now we actually have a full story because it was just the huff and puff that I was seeing last week, but now we actually have a conclusion to this. So what's going on here is Whole Foods, they had this berry chantilly cake, and it had like a cult following. Apparently there's like this whole like group that's been out since 2002, this cult cake, and it dates this cult cake dates back to 2002. People have been culting over Whole Foods cakes.
I don't know anything about it.
I didn't even know about any of this either. But apparently they pulled back on some of their ingredients on this berry chantilly cake, and people were furious. We had people that were dropping TikTok saying, "I just received the worst news of my entire life," Miss Youngs declared in a TikTok post on September 21st. And then she's like, Whole Foods is discontinuing the berry chantilly cake and that we all know and love. So apparently this cake has a massive following. And the new version of it had like a thin, like it didn't have the berry-liciousness that it once had. It was like now a jam had replaced this.
I bet you if we did a blind taste test, you and I, on the old and the new, we'd like the new better.
Who knows? Maybe because there's more man-made chemicals in it. Maybe it's not as natural.
So the new one's no good in that sense, you think?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And there is some skeptic out there, some skepticism thinking that it's a shrinkflation type of situation where, because Amazon owns Whole Foods, they're trying to bring back cut some costs in some areas, and now they're skimping on some cake ingredients. And so people are not happy with this. After all this huff and puff, it turns out that Whole Foods is going to step it back and keep things the way that they have been.
Only because of the backlash that they received.
Oh, yeah.
It was jeopardizing their business. And
the power of the internet.
You know what? I think Amazon and Whole Foods should have stood their ground on this and said, we're changing the recipe. This is the cake now. If you don't like it, it is what it is.
You know, I mean, you would kind of have some more respect for them for doing that. But, you know, the internet's a powerful thing. Like, it changed the CG character of the Sonic movie.
It did the same thing with Twinkies. Remember when Twinkies were going to be obsolete? They're like, they're done. We're not making any more Twinkies. People were losing their fucking minds, buying $80 boxes on eBay of Twinkies that Hostess said, all right.
They still make Twinkies?
Hostess is like, all right, we'll keep making it.
They still make the Twinkies?
Twinkies are still available today.
So that's the overall story here. So they are going to return to the original berry chantilly cake ingredients, but I had to at least share the origin story of this cake. It's from New Orleans. Miss Conrad, she worked at a Whole Foods down in New Orleans, and she based this cake off of her grandmother's recipe. And so actually this renowned cake is a grandmother's recipe from a gal in NOLA, bro. Man. And so that's where it came from. And
I bet it was really
that's
good.
just this cake story. I think it's crazy how people start freaking out about cakes and everything, and it's like,
it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's some Happy Friday material. They're bringing the cakes back, baby.
I want to try this cake now. I want to know what is so exciting about it.
I might swing by a Whole Foods on my way home, you know?
Like, if it's that, like, people are posting videos and talking about how it's upsetting them, like, we need to try this cake.
Yeah, I don't know if the original cake is back on the shelves yet.
All right.
Because, you know, it's the mass production type of shit.
They have to inventory.
Redistribute. Like, they got to get it going again, but fear not. Your cakes are going to be, your berry cake is back, okay?
Now that's having your cake and eating it too.
It is. And moving into something else, this episode has
very sexual.
It's been a fun episode, and Denver's about to become the epicenter for something quite particular.
Yeah, this was an interesting article to me. I mean, I know there's a lot of places around the country where people like to do sex, of course, but apparently Denver, Colorado, right here in our backyard, is going to become the epicenter for sex enthusiasts.
Okay.
So as we mentioned earlier in this episode about taking your sex to the next level with BDSM and doing some wild stuff, this is the place for you right here in the Mile High City. Kicking off this weekend, we have the Sexual Health Alliance's Sexological Conference going on, and apparently the CEO of the Sexual Health Alliance came out and said, Denver is such a special place, this is where it's at for sex.
Why? What's going on out here?
Well, I think Denver,
is it because of the Mile High Club? Because people are like, you want to join the Mile High Club, and
I think that's part of it. And I also think Denver has a high hippie population, and I don't say that to be offensive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean, like, hippies are great people, but they're very earthy, they're very spiritual.
Free love.
Peace, love, happiness, free love, naked. It's all accepted. So it makes sense why Denver would be the place for this. And so there's 2 major conventions happening this month, Art. One of them's going on right now through this weekend.
Okay.
And then we have the Pleasure Island Experience, the Erotic Blueprint Workshop that's going to be taking place right here in Denver, Colorado, October 17th through the 20th. You know, and I was kind of talking to you off mic about this a little bit. Like, you're probably going to meet some interesting people at these events.
Yeah.
I would think maybe some swingers.
Yeah.
You know, people that are
looking for orgies.
I would think a lot of group sex activities would attend something like this, rather than it being like a very
toy-based thing,
like erotic, romantic kind of sexual thing. I don't necessarily think you would see a lot of that there, but I could be wrong.
I mean, you could. I feel like if you're a strong couple that has a good polarity and, you know, you're everything is good, if you went to this, I think it could be a lot of fun.
I think so too.
And that you might be able to just come up with some new ideas. Maybe you learn something about your partner that you didn't know before by taking them to an event like this.
It could be fun. It could make people uncomfortable. You know, you would have to be very open with your sexuality, which people should be, of course.
Well, you said it could be fun. It could make people uncomfortable.
It could, because
Do you
if
think
you're
making people uncomfortable is fun?
For some, I think some
Okay.
people get enjoyment. I don't.
Okay.
If I were to attend something like this with a woman or whoever, I would want both parties to be going into it knowing what it is, not getting uncomfortable about it. Like, you would have to be kind of mentally prepared to go into something like this, because you don't know what you're probably going to see some wild stuff, probably some stuff you've never even heard of that makes you question, oh wow, I didn't even know that existed in the bedroom, those kind of things. So you
might
have
learn
to have
some
an open
things.
mind.
You might learn some things that you didn't need to know about.
Exactly.
It might be something like that.
Which could go back to our masturbation talk earlier, you know, with maybe women that haven't experienced that part of their body yet with doing things like squirting or other things that are possible with some toys or just some things. I mean, there's a lot of things out there, and these kind of conventions here in Denver might open up some eyes, ears, and well, genitalia.
Okay. And I'm all for it. Like, there's definitely for men and women both, it's important to have sexual health.
It is.
And it's important on so many confidence levels and physical levels, I believe. So having, like, that's one thing. Okay, so when I was in Sweden, so America is weird with sexualization. And
what do you mean?
And like, so we censor more sex and like boobs than we do violence.
Yeah, that's true.
And in Sweden,
that is true.
Like being naked is normal.
Yeah.
But
a European
but they
thing.
don't show the violence stuff.
I think that's a religious thing too, though.
So I don't know what that is, but I think that makes more sense than how we do it out here. So it doesn't have to be like goofier. You know, you could just go check it out, have a level of interest, have some fun. Look, this looks like a fun event.
It does.
Like, if not, I would be entertained walking around 100%.
So it looks like, well, the location hasn't been revealed, so it's kind of like one of those secret places. They're expecting 400 to 500 people to attend the Pleasure Island Experience. Tickets
what is a Pleasure Island Experience? I don't know about that.
Look at the tickets, $1,200, $1,290 a piece to get into this.
See, the Pleasure Island one, that's like you're actually doing stuff with people.
That's what it, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So this is like where you would probably, I think, dominatrix type stuff.
Yeah.
So you would need a sub and a dom. Someone's going to get tied up. Someone's going to get tickled or whatever. Some things are going to happen at this event. And so you would just have to be completely prepared to go into that. You know it's going to be a kink fest. And be willing to
I wouldn't
submit.
do the Pleasure Island thing, but
either.
like going to like a convention type of center scenario. I
Look
would
at the toys.
Yeah, I would do something like that.
I would do that.
But I'm not paying no $1,300 for this Pleasure Island.
I wouldn't either.
No way.
There's no way. That's where it starts to get a little bit out of what I would want to do. But the fact remains, it's kind of cool that they're saying Denver is like kind of the sex capital of America, which is weird because I would always think like Las Vegas and like Sin City, those kind of places. You think sex, drugs, rock and roll, alcohol. But apparently, just on the sex side, Denver's where it's at.
Let's go.
Who knew?
Let's go, man. You know, until you've been to Denver, Colorado, and checked it out, like, you don't know what you're missing.
It's a great city.
So, moving on to things to do this weekend, Austin City Limits Music Festival. I've heard Austin is like the Denver of Texas. I've never been. I want to go.
Austin, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people from around the country, and anytime I talk about Texas, because I love that state, they're like, man, I love Austin.
Really?
Everyone loves Austin. The Austin City Limits Music Fest is one of the biggest music fests in the country. As far as you think about Nashville being the live music capital of the world, Austin is right there with it as far as live music.
Nice.
Fantastic, and it's great to see what they're doing with the comedy scene in Austin. I'd love to get down for a visit.
Maybe that's something we do 2025.
I'd like to get down there.
You know,
that's where the podcast scene is now. All those the comedians, Rogans, are all gone to Austin. It's a fun city. We got to go down for a visit. Little Rock, Arkansas, really kind of a cool town. You know, there's not much in Arkansas. I guess President Bill Clinton was from there, so you can go see that. But they have the Turkish Food Festival going on tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be good.
So go get some delicious
Why is it
eats.
spicy?
I can't. Turkish food. Does anything stand out for you? Like a poopas?
It's like
Poopas?
it's like
Puppis?
it's like, you know, like the lamb and like that
Yeah.
that type of, and like the rice, like it's like that yellow type of rice.
Right.
It's like kind of like I feel like it's somewhat Mediterranean.
Sounds good
because
to me.
Turkey is on the Mediterranean, of course. Like part of it is.
Sounds delicious.
We also got the 38th annual Newport Harvest Street Festival in Des Moines, Iowa, Saturday and Sunday. That just made me think about the Newport cigarettes. I don't know why.
It looks. I took a look at it when we were putting the script together. It looks like a pretty fun thing that they've been doing. Like street festivals are fun because, you know, it's like a combination of food trucks, little pop-up stands. People are selling shit. You can try food. I don't know. I've never been to it, but it's their 30th annual. They keep going. Des Moines, don't know much about it, other than that they have a racetrack not far from it.
Yep. And talking about racing, we got the legendary Talladega track coming up this week for NASCAR. What you got on that?
Yep, that's right, Art. NASCAR is in Talladega this weekend. Huge track. I mean, even folks that don't know NASCAR know that term Talladega because, of course, the Talladega Nights movie, which didn't paint our sport in the best light. But Dega is it's high energy, action packed. We're hoping that we don't have any hurricanes or weather that's going to impact that this weekend, Art. But it's going to be. Hopefully, you guys can make it over. You know, Dega is always a crapshoot. If you want to do betting, right? I talk about sports betting a little bit on Mash the Gas. This is the race to bet on. I know you've done it before with me, Art, because it's this crapshoot race.
I deleted the apps.
4 or 5 wide. Anybody can win this race. Put your money on the dark horses. That's what I'm going to recommend for Dega this weekend. The playoffs continue, and we're going to wrap things up here for Happy Friday, Art. We're done for this week. Instagram and Facebook, guys, if you want to get in touch, at Happy Friday USA. Twitter X, where you can take the polls that we put up every Friday morning. Watch the promo clips. That's Happy Fry, not like a French fry, F-R-I, USA, over there on X. And, of course, if you want to be old school, send us an email, happyfridayamerica@gmail.com. Be sure to mash some of that Fricka music. YouTube keeps copywriting us on that. We're going to get that straightened out. Fricka bringing us in, baby. Enjoy your weekend, America.